Breck Bednar was born on a day full of celebration, St. Patrick's Day. While people outside filled the streets with green hats, music, and laughter, inside a small home, a mother held her newborn son for the first time, feeling like the luckiest person in the world. To her, this wasn't just another holiday, it was the beginning of a life she would treasure forever. Breck was a beautiful baby. His mother loved dressing him in classic, old-fashioned outfits, the kind that made strangers smile. Many even mistook him for a little girl because of his soft features and gentle eyes. But to her, he was perfect, kind, calm, and special from the very start. At home, Breck grew into the role of the ideal older brother. To his younger sisters, he wasn't just family, he was a hero. At restaurants, one of them would always sit beside him. While others might expect an older brother to be annoying or distant, Breck was the opposite. He was patient, helpful, and protective. If his sisters needed anything, Breck was already there. They remembered him as a guide, someone who taught them games, explained things with care, and always found ways to include them. Even when they annoyed him, tapping his shoulder for attention, he never pushed them away. To them, he was cool, smart, and endlessly kind. From a young age, Breck showed responsibility beyond his years. When the triplets were born, he was just a toddler himself, but he embraced his role eagerly. If his mother asked for help, fetching nappies or small items, he would stumble over with determination, proud to be useful. It was as if taking care of others came naturally to him. At school, Breck did well with little effort. He wasn't arrogant about it, just quietly clever. Teachers praised him, and his mother never had to worry about his behavior. He was relaxed, cheerful, and dependable. Problems rarely followed him. As he grew older, Breck discovered a powerful passion for technology. Computers fascinated him. Games became his favorite world, one where skill, creativity, and imagination came together. His younger sisters would crowd around him as he played, watching every move on the screen. To them, he wasn't just a brother anymore. He was an inspiration. His love for technology didn't stop him from dreaming big. Breck wanted to be a pilot. His mother would drive him to air cadets, and those car rides became some of her most cherished memories. Just the two of them, talking about life, listening to music, and dreaming about the future. She believed completely in the man he was becoming. But life changed when the family went through a painful separation. His parents' divorce deeply affected the household. Moving between two homes wasn't easy, but the family stayed close. Still, Breck had to change schools. At his new school, he reunited with old friends and quickly became part of a tight-knit gaming group. Every afternoon after school, the boys would rush home, jump online, and enter what felt like a second life together. His mother knew these boys. She knew their families. It felt safe, familiar, harmless. Breck's gaming setup became his private universe. 3 screens, fast servers, messages flashing nonstop. His skills grew alongside his confidence. From the outside, everything looked normal. A talented boy enjoying his passion. But quietly, without warning, something unseen was moving closer to him. A voice his mother didn't recognize would soon enter his room, and nothing would ever be the same again. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Breck was still gaming with his friends, laughing through his headset, and spending long hours in his room like most teenagers. His mother could hear the familiar voices of boys his own age drifting through the door. Loud, excited, careless. It sounded normal, safe. Until one day, a different voice appeared. It was deeper, calmer, too mature to belong to a teenage boy. The sound sent an uneasy feeling through Breck's mother. Something about it didn't sit right. Instinctively, her mind went to the worst possibilities. A grown man pretending to be young, hiding behind a screen. The thought terrified her. When she asked Breck about it, he brushed off the concern with casual confidence. He explained that this new person was the owner of their gaming server. According to Breck, the server was the best they had ever used. Faster, smoother, more advanced than anything before. The mysterious voice belonged to a boy named Louis. Breck described Louis as a brilliant 17-year-old computer engineer living in New York. He claimed Louis worked on secret government contracts, ran powerful servers, and lived a life most people could only dream of. To a 13-year-old boy who loved technology, it sounded like the future itself had spoken to him. At first, his mother listened politely but carefully. The stories sounded impressive, too impressive. When she asked questions, there were always ready-made answers. Louis worked his own hours. Louis couldn't show his face because of security reasons. Louis traveled constantly. Louis was special. Too special. As weeks passed, small things began to change. Breck became more protective of his online time. If his mother asked him to step away from the computer for dinner, he showed irritation. Not anger, just resistance. Subtle, growing, quiet. The once easygoing boy now questioned simple rules. At dinner, his mother tried to keep the family together. Eating together was her way of staying connected. But Louis began to twist this. Through messages, he planted seeds of doubt. Why does your mom force you to eat when you're not hungry? Why does she control your schedule so much? Slowly, gently, authority was being painted as oppression. Breck didn't notice the trap forming around him. He believed he had found a mentor, someone smart, successful, someone he could become one day. The grooming wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. It was quiet, private, daily. Louis contacted him constantly. Messages flowed morning to night. Compliments turned into admiration. Admiration turned into isolation. Louis told Breck he was different from the others. Smarter, more mature, chosen. Breck began drifting away from his dreams of becoming a pilot. Air cadets no longer excited him. Family time felt like a distraction. The future he once imagined started to blur, replaced by promises of digital power, secret projects, and responsibility beyond his years. His sisters felt the distance first. They noticed his silence at family gatherings, the empty chair at movie nights, the way he locked himself away emotionally, not just physically, in his room. His mother tried to intervene. One day, she made a difficult choice. She took away Breck's devices. Every screen went dark. She explained her fear calmly. She asked him to take space from the stranger online. For a short time, it worked. Breck returned to the family. He laughed again, he came to meals, he helped with chores. It felt like the storm had passed. His mother believed she had fixed the problem. But what she couldn't see was that the predator had simply moved deeper into the shadows. Unknown to her, Breck still had one device hidden away, an MP3 player. And through that tiny piece of forgotten technology, Louis stayed connected. And this time, the danger became invisible. Trust had already been broken. Control was shifting. And Breck, without realizing it, was slipping further into a trap built entirely out of lies.
As summer arrived, Breck was no longer the same boy his family once knew. His attitude had changed in quiet but troubling ways. He questioned rules that he once followed without complaint. Simple requests became debates. His mother wondered if this was just normal teenage behavior, or something far more dangerous growing beneath the surface. At the center of it all was still Louis. Even after Breck's devices were taken away, the connection had not been broken. Through a hidden MP3 player, messages continued to flow. What his family saw as protection, Louis portrayed as punishment. "They're trying to control you," Louis whispered through text. "They don't understand your future like I do." And Breck believed him. Louis slowly pushed Breck away from his own family. He made Breck feel misunderstood at home and fully accepted online. He offered dreams of power, success, and importance. He told Breck he was special, destined for more than ordinary life. Then Breck's mother did what many parents fear doing. She called the police. Her instinct told her something was deeply wrong. She gave them Lewis's screen names, the lies he told, even the small clues she could gather. When she hung up the phone, she felt relief wash over her. Finally, someone was listening. As a second step, she took away all of Breck's technology again, this time as a firm stand. She told him she was worried and needed him to understand the seriousness of the situation. But Lewis had already planned for this. The predator knew the parents were watching. The solution he sent was chillingly simple: a brand new smartphone, delivered secretly, just for Breck. With it, their communication became hidden, encrypted in silence. The rule-breaking now felt like rebellion, and rebellion made Breck feel grown. Later, the police quietly closed the case. There was no direct evidence of a crime, no visible threats, just a boy chatting with someone online. Legally, it wasn't enough. By the time Breck's mother learned the investigation had ended, danger was no longer theoretical. At home, Breck pulled further away. He became moody, distant, and withdrawn. His sisters barely recognized the cheerful big brother they once idolized. When family members challenged his behavior, he turned cold. Lewis had fully replaced their voices in his heart. He even began to abandon his old dream of becoming a pilot. He talked instead about gaming full-time, about future tech projects with Lewis, about success faster and easier than school or air cadets could ever promise. His personality no longer belonged to himself. His parents tried one final step. They asked to meet Lewis. They offered coffee, a casual meeting, just to see who this mysterious friend truly was. Lewis refused. When they suggested that at least the fathers could meet him, the answer was still no. That refusal said everything. With no trust left, Breck's parents made a final decision. They banned him completely from contacting Lewis. But this, too, was something Lewis had already anticipated. By now, secrecy had become the fuel of their bond. What was once an open gaming connection had turned into a hidden alliance against authority. Around Christmas, all devices were taken away again. For one peaceful week, the family felt whole. Breck laughed. He watched movies. He helped in the kitchen. It felt like the boy they loved had returned. After the holidays, his devices were slowly returned, and Breck returned to his secret life. For a short time, though, everything seemed calm. He appeared lighter. He followed rules again. His mother no longer heard that deep, unfamiliar voice through his door. She believed the danger was over. She was wrong. In early 2014, Breck went on a school exchange trip to Spain. His mother took pictures of him just before he left. As he walked away, confident and excited, she felt overwhelming pride watching her son grow into a young man. She never imagined those photos would become some of the last memories she had of him alive.
When Breck returned from his school trip to Spain, everyone noticed a change in him. He seemed more confident, more grown, excited by new experiences. He talked about meeting new people, even hinted at a girl he had liked. His parents smiled, relieved to see him happy again. For a brief moment, it felt like life was finally moving back towards something normal. A few days after returning, Breck asked his father for permission to stay overnight at a friend's house. It wasn't something he usually did. That alone made the request feel special. His parents felt a mix of excitement and pride. Breck was becoming more independent, more social. There was no history of lying, sneaking out, or breaking trust. He had always been honest. This time was different. What his parents didn't know was that Lewis had carefully planned everything in detail. Step by step, he coached Breck on what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. Breck was instructed to tell his father that the sleepover was only 2 streets away, to a harmless friend's home nearby. But in truth, Lewis lived over 30 miles away. That night, Breck packed his devices, his passion for gaming, and his trust into his bag. He left his home thinking he was heading toward friendship, learning, and opportunity. Instead, he was walking toward a trap. The next morning, his mother awoke with a strange, heavy feeling in her chest, a sense of dread she couldn't explain. Moments later, her phone vibrated. It was Breck's father. Breck hadn't come home. At first, they assumed there had been a mix-up. Maybe he had stayed longer than planned. But as the minutes passed and calls went unanswered, panic took hold. That quiet unease turned into terror. Then the phone rang again. This time, everything shattered. Breck was gone. His mother later described that moment as dying without dying. The world folded in on itself. Her screams filled the house. Her body simply shut down under the weight of the truth. Meanwhile, at Lewis's flat, a carefully rehearsed phone call was made to emergency services. His voice was calm, measured, almost emotionless. He claimed Breck had lost control, that there had been a struggle, that it was an accident, that he had acted in self-defense. Investigators would later describe the call as unnatural, too organized, too controlled for someone claiming panic. It sounded like a story that had been practiced. When police arrived at the apartment, Lewis was cooperative, polite, detached. Inside, the truth waited. In the bedroom, Breck's body lay on the floor. Blood covered the bed. Blood stained the laptop. In the bathroom sink, phones and storage drives were submerged in water, an attempt to erase the digital trail. But data has a way of surviving. Investigators recovered tape, clothing, and forensic evidence that painted a horrifying picture. The story of self-defense began to collapse immediately. The evidence did not support a struggle. It revealed planning. Breck had been restrained. He had been trapped, and he had trusted the wrong person with his life. The medical timeline revealed something even chilling. Just hours before his death, Breck was still using his laptop normally, gaming, talking, being a teenager, unaware. Lewis was arrested at the scene. News reached Breck's sisters later that day. They saw police cars outside their home before they even knew the truth. When their father entered the room, his face broken with grief, and told them their brother was dead, the world they knew vanished instantly. Nothing would ever be normal again. The boy who once guided them, protected them, and inspired them was gone. And the man who had stolen his life had done it with deception, manipulation, and patience. The days after Breck's death moved like a blur of sirens, interviews, forensic reports, and unbearable silence. His family lived in shock, breathing, but not truly living. Every room in the house felt haunted by his absence, his shoes by the door, his laughter missing from the walls, his future suddenly erased. At the crime scene, investigators worked carefully and relentlessly. They examined every surface, every device, every trace of evidence Lewis had tried to destroy. In the bedroom, blood covered the bed and floor. In the bathroom, phones and hard drives had been dumped into water, an attempt to wipe away the truth. But technology remembered what Lewis wanted to forget. From Breck's tablet, investigators recovered months of communication, messages that showed grooming, manipulation, control, promises of power, promises of wealth, promises of a future that never existed. Lewis had slowly separated Breck from friends, from family, from his own dreams, until Breck's world had become only him. The evidence was overwhelming. Lewis was charged with murder. In court, he looked nothing like a monster. He appeared young, quiet, almost invisible. But behind that ordinary face was a calculated predator who had spent months building a path toward one final act of control. At first, Lewis pleaded not guilty, insisting Breck's death was self-defense. His story never truly changed, only the details did. But as the trial approached, something unexpected happened. Lewis changed his plea. Guilty. The courtroom fell silent. No one had expected the truth to come so suddenly from someone who had lied so easily for so long. For Breck's family, the guilty pleas spared them weeks of reliving every detail in open court, but it could never spare them the pain. On January 12, 2015, Lewis Danes was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 25 years. For Breck's sisters, it wasn't justice. 25 years could never equal a stolen lifetime. It could never replace birthdays missed, graduations lost, dreams that would never be lived. Grief did not fade with the sentence. If anything, it grew heavier. For nearly a year, Breck's mother barely left her bed. She rose only for court dates, school meetings, and moments that demanded strength she no longer felt. The triplets didn't just lose their brother, they lost the version of their mother they once knew. She wasn't broken from weakness, she was broken from love. Slowly, painfully, she chose to stand back up, and when she did, she chose to turn her pain into purpose. She founded a charity in Breck's name, a mission to educate parents, children, and schools about online grooming, digital danger, and the hidden realities behind friendly profiles and gaming servers. She spoke because Breck could not. She warned because other families still had time. In every talk she gave, she carried one message above all others. Children don't always see danger, but their friends and siblings often do. She taught young people to watch for changes in behavior, to notice isolation, to question secrecy, to speak up before it's too late. Breck's sisters grew up with grief as part of their identity, but also with strength. They carried his memory into everything they became. Whenever they achieved something new, they imagined Breck watching, smiling, proud. They were no longer the children he once protected. They became the legacy he left behind. Breck was clever, kind, gentle, a dreamer with a future full of light. And though his life ended far too soon, his voice now reaches thousands. His story now saves lives.